I am Dr. Rajesh Gopinath and you are with me on the course of Environmental Protection and Management. Last session we had spoken about environmental audits. Today we shall be delving into EMS audits in detail. So if you can kindly look at slide 4, it gives you an idea of how we will be going about in this aspect. First I shall be defining it before moving on to the various guidelines. I shall explain to you the actual auditing process and also give you a peek review into the various roles and qualifications of an auditor. Finally, we shall be summarizing this before listing the references. Let's look at slide 5. Now, if you remember, I had told you that EMS audit is basically a certification process. Now, within this also there are two types, that is part 1 and part 2. While part 1 is a pre-EMS audit which is carried out by first party and second party, which is only a self-assessment, wherein either the organization has an internal expert within the organization who carries it out, first party, or the organization appoints a consultant from outside to review it, second party. However, it is only part 2, third party EMS audit, which is the certification process. Moving on. Now, it is very important that any organization for that matter should schedule periodic, regular internal audit of its environmental management system, and this is to assess whether the existing EMS is meeting all the specifications of ISO 14001, and we need to ensure that it is updated and maintained properly. Yes, of course, now EMS has been upgraded from ISO 14001 to ISO 19011, which will be dealt further in this. It is necessary that all the top management should be aware or should be also made fully aware of the audit findings. It is up to the organization to establish and maintain programs, procedures for regular periodic environmental management system audits to be implemented. Okay, now it is a well-known fact, as I told you, that EMS audit is carried out only by trained, experienced professionals, and this is no longer a self-declaration process, rather it is a conformance of your efficiency in terms of the certificate. Okay, let's move on to slide 6. Let us have a review of the guidelines that are mentioned in ISO 19011 for auditing EMS. Primarily, the document will have something called as the audit objectives. Okay, that is whether the EMS has been implemented and maintained efficiently, effectively, whether the EMS meets the industry norms, the targets, and has incorporated the principles of due diligence, whether the EMS has been improved by identifying the opportunities by carrying out SWOT analysis. So these are the 3 primary objectives that are part of your EMS audits. Now, who is involved in an audit? First of all, the client, that is the sponsorer, who requests and pays for the audit. Auditee, it is basically the organization or facility or the department who is being audited. Audit team basically comprises of a lead auditor and the team members who are going to audit the auditee. Facility management, these are those who are responsible for receiving and initiating action on audit results. Facility supervisors and employees, these are those who are responsible for cooperating in the audit process and providing information as requested by the auditors. Let's move on to slide 7. So, what actually happens in an audit process? Let's have an overview of that. First, there is a detailed plan which is prepared for each audit. Second, each audit is executed. Third, the audit results, which includes recommendations, summary, they are reported. Third, corrective actions are taken upon based on the report. Finally, follow-up action is carried out to make sure that the corrective actions are actually effective. So let me recap. In an audit process, first a detailed plan is drafted for each of the audit. Further, each audit is carried out. Next, the audit results are reported. Corrective actions are then decided, probed and implemented. Finally, follow-up action is taken to understand whether even the corrective actions are effective or not. Having said all this, there is a limited scope or defined fixed scope for any audit, which enhances the effectiveness of audit process. And these are the boundaries of an audit, the processes that will be audited, the functions within an audit, the functions within the organization, the departments within the organization. Okay, the main objective or core that the audit is going to emphasize upon, and the stipulated time frame within which the audit has to be completed. Let's move on to slide 8. How actually an audit can be undertaken? There are 3 ways. One, you can do it as a vertical process like a typical hierarchy, okay, top to bottom, or you may do it on a horizontal level. For instance, if I can give an example to you, taking a education system in an engineering college, a vertical audit is wherein you audit the processes right from the management to the principal, to the dean, to the head of the department, to the faculty. While horizontal audit is when the audit is carried out simultaneously, parallelly across different departments such as mechanical, civil, electrical, information science, MCA and so forth. However, depending on the scope of the audit, the time frame of the audit, the boundary of the audit, sometimes we can also go for combinations of horizontal and vertical. Let's continue. So how do you prepare for an audit? Now this is something which is done by the team leader in coordination with the team members. Primarily what they do is they define what are the objectives for the given audit, what is the scope of this audit, what are the resources which are going to be audited, and what are the various criteria under which this audit has to be accomplished. After defining all of these, okay, then an audit notification has to be prepared and distributed to the auditee. Finally, relevant documents have to be collected, followed up with, understood. When all these steps are accomplished, then the audit plan or the work plan of how to carry out the audit is taken further. Slide 9. So, how do we schedule an audit? Let's have a look at the bullet points. First, the main activities or processes, procedures have to be listed. Next, what are the different departments who are involved in this? They need to be listed. Further, what are the activities that have to be audited? They have to be listed. It is important that there is inclusion of activities which are quality based. It is important to include activities which are based on ISO system level itself. It is important to ensure that all activities which are pertinent have been covered. After doing all this, individuals are assigned to perform the respective audits. Now, what does an audit conclusion contain? as simple as whether the industry, the EMS of the industry is suiting, conforming with the requirements and norms of the ISO itself. The conclusion will indicate statements to identify the suitability of a process towards the accomplishment or achievement of the objectives as listed by the company. The conclusions will contain comments made by the auditors, including the team leaders, whether the processes are actually effectively implemented. And finally, being an expert auditor, they also will provide recommendations, suggestions that can be considered for improving the existing system. Let's go on to slide 10. So when an audit is being carried out, what are the criteria that they are reviewing? Basically, there are internal and external criteria. Now, if you look at the internal criteria, it can be as simple as the customer complaint procedures, the maintenance procedures, the startup shutdown procedures, the calibration procedures, or probably even SOP. Fine. If you have to think about the external criteria, then definitely the corporate policy, the customer requirement, the market requirement, government regulations, industry codes, and above all, the ISO reference. Slide 11. Before I begin explaining about auditors, the roles, qualifications, and criteria, let me recap. We all are now aware of the significance of EMS audit, that is ISO 19011-2011. When you carry out a EMS audit, you are basically telling the industry whether your EMS is in place or not. And when the certification confirms that the EMS is in place, invariably you are informing the society, the industry, and all stakeholders that this particular industry or enterprise is doing a remarkable job towards environmental protection, conservation, and sustainable activities. Now, who are the key players? The auditors themselves. So now let's understand something about these auditors. So, as I told you, the audit team will comprise of the team leader and the auditors. What is that they should be possessing in terms of knowledge and skills? Obviously, since they are dealing with environmental management system, let me re-stress environmental. So, their knowledge, skills should be invariably related and connected to the world of environmental science, environmental engineering, environmental technologies. They should be well aware of the terminologies, the management principles of environment, the applications of environmental management. They should be well aware of the environmental management tools such as environmental aspect, environmental impact assessment, environmental performance evaluation. Moving on from environmental management methods and techniques, they should also be well versed with environmental science and technology. In this, they should have knowledge and skills which deals with interaction of ecosystems, which deals with environmental attributes such as air, water, land. They should know about the impact of human activities on the environment. They should know about the natural resource management. Moving further, technical and environmental aspects of operations. Herein, they should be aware of monitoring and measurement techniques. They should be well versed with all the technologies which are used for prevention of pollution, that is pollution abatement. They should know about environmental aspects and their impacts. They should also be aware of the different methods for evaluating the significance of environmental aspects. They should know the various laws, regulations about environmental pollution prevention and protection. They should know all the standards with respect to EMS and the standards against which the audit may have to be conducted. They should be well versed with the audit procedures, processes and techniques. So if I need to recap in simple words, an auditor in the domain of EMS audit is a person who is well versed, has sufficient knowledge, is equipped and skilled in environmental science, that is interaction of the living and non-living, environmental engineering, that is design and abatement measures for pollution, should be aware of the various laws, acts, norms, policies, should be aware of all standards with respect to EMS and for the audit. And finally, with all these knowledge, skills equipped, should be knowing the procedure for an audit, the processes, techniques, the planning and the scheduling aspects. Slide 12. Now let us try to have a glimpse of the audit team, that is the team leader and the auditor. What is that they basically should be equipped with in terms of qualification, experience and training. If you look at the table, the first 4 rows are basically the same for both the team member and the team leader. Both of them should be qualified with a degree in environmental engineering or environmental science with and or a postgraduate degree. Okay. Also, the total work experience for both of them would be at least 4 years. Not only that, in this 4 years, at least 2 of those years should have been in environmental management itself. Apart from this, they both should have undergone auditor training of at least 40 hours and in specificity to EMS only. So what sets the auditor apart from a team leader? Now, or let me put it the other way. Why is an audit team leader on a higher pedestal when compared to a team member? An auditor, that is a normal team member, in terms of experience would have at least completed or should have at least completed 4 complete audits, which accounts for at least 15 days of audit training, and definitely under the guidance of a team leader. Now when it comes to an audit team leader, this person also should have had at least 3 complete audits as a EMS auditor, which accounts to about 10 days. Okay. But apart from this, the team leader should have also undergone 3 complete audits as a team leader in training for at least a total of 10 days. Both of these experiences are well within and under the directions of a superior who has more experience in this regards. Now let's move on to slide 13. Slide 13 and slide 14, both of them basically are samples of audit report. If you keenly observe, it basically requires information from the auditors with respect to administration, operation, waste management and other such processes. These templates seek inputs, feedback, recommendations and observations. These templates, especially slide 14, it speaks about incident and deviation report. So this template also will highlight incidents, okay, which basically highlights the effectiveness of the EMS which is there in the industry. So my dear friends, now let's summarize slide 15. For audits to be successful, effective, they must be scheduled at specified intervals, regular intervals. They must be so flexible that the highest priority is always addressed and audited first. And let's not forget, EMS audit is a process of objectively obtaining and evaluating evidences to assess whether the EMS of the organization is working as intended. As you are aware, the audit criteria are both external and internal factors. If you recollect, standard operating procedure, maintenance procedures, they represent internal criteria. Government laws, ISO document refers to external criteria. And finally, towards the end, we also had discussed the eligibility and qualification aspects of an auditor. Slide 16 are few of the references that I have followed in order to draft this presentation. I would request all of you also to go through this and enhance your knowledge. Slide 17, we shall be discussing about non-conformance, that is corrective and preventive actions for the next lesson. I thank you all once again for your patient hearing. This is Dr. Rajesh Gopinath.